So I have worked at bookstores for much of my professional life. One time we got to go to a festival, and Stephen King was going to speak there. So, of course, when he's speaking, no one is shopping. So we all go to listen to him talk. I read It when I was 12. That was the first, adult novel I've ever read. Not because I'm some kind of badass, but because back in my day, there was no YA, there was no intermediary. You went from Goosebumps and Bunnicula to Stephen King. So it was super exciting to see him in person, but something kind of nagged at me by the end of his talk. So his current book was already a mini-series. His next one was already optioned. His son, Joe Hill, he talked about his stuff was all already either a mini-series or becoming a mini-series. And after all this, it kind of hit me that there's no real reason for Stephen King to do what he does anymore. I'm Eric Greentree. I make videos about creativity, stuff I'm working on. This is about story forms. With my experience in bookstores, one thing I noticed right away, seeing all these new books coming in, was that almost 100% of heavily promoted new books aren't really novels. They are novel-length movie and TV pitches. And you see this in writing advice, write cinematically, write in the way your films are structured. Hollywood is much more likely to buy existing IP, even if it's a novel that no one has ever read. But really, that advice is just another way of saying that your novel isn't a novel, it's a pitch. They're advocating it as an actual career step. Something really, really dramatic happened in storytelling, and we have not recovered or really understood it yet. This is the initial domination and the downfall of written prose as the primary vehicle for story. Before we had the printing press, everyone did poems and ballads and plays in verse because they're memorable by necessity. And then we get the printing press and we can write this down. Prose dominates for hundreds of years. Written prose is like the best and only way to really tell a story. The instant you could write something down, you could record it. We didn't have recorded music or, recorded plays for another, several hundred years. So we got the camera, and novels are still then seen as the real art form. And film is this kind of thing that is meant to film plays. Then film, after a while, develops its own language and becomes more artsy, and then TV is then suddenly seen as the lower class derivative of that. And then after a while, TV has matured, and the long-form serialized storytelling takes hold. And then we can stream everything, and prose during this fell straight off a cliff. It went from being the best to the worst. And I don't think people are really paying attention to or understanding that. It's not the worst, in quality, but it's the worst in the sense that reading, especially a novel, demands a focused attention that no other form of media requires. The author just has the rhythm of the sentences and the lore of the idea, and you have to kind of tune out the rest of the world on purpose. That's really the effort to dive into this novel, and no other form of entertainment now demands this of you. Very few authors are actually writing a good novel that the novel is the best possible form to tell the story in. And so let me expand on that a little. A work of art should need to be what it is. What form are you choosing, and why are you choosing it? Are you writing a novel just because it's the lowest barrier to entry? Novel writing isn't easy, but compared to budgeting, locations, casting, and scheduling, and editing, and finding funding, but those visual forms come with markedly increased visible presence. People are going to watch things a lot more than they're going to read things. So the only real reason, I think, to write a novel today is because the form itself is the art. When you think of the novels of James Joyce, Samuel Beckett, or Cormac McCarthy, these work as novels. People have tried to adapt them, and it doesn't work. And in fact, the most successful Cormac McCarthy adaptation is one he originally wrote as a screenplay, and it wasn't working, so he turned it into a quick novel instead, and then it got adapted. I don't think there's anything wrong with adaptation. For instance, nobody thought American Psycho would make a good movie, because the novel itself is so episodic and disjointed, and there's no kind of character growth, there's no through line to cling to. A visual thinker, someone who thinks visually for the screen, grabs on to certain episodes and they change certain things to make it work as a movie. The business card scene in American Psycho plays very differently on the screen than it does on the page. An adaptation is I look at it as like a cover song. If someone wants to turn my 80s love ballad into a Zydeco opera, then go for it. But what is your story? Is your story a short story? Is it a novel? Is it a poem? Is it a dance? Is it a painting? Is it a film? Commit to the form right away. And getting back to, I'm going to wrap up my Stephen King story. I'm not saying that Stephen King is like a sellout or a hacker. Now he doesn't care anymore. He's doing exactly what he's been doing for decades. He's very good at it. He loves doing it. He came up in an era when novelists could be A-list celebrities. And not only that, but they were A-list celebrities recognized for artfulness and creativity, and rather than just spectacle. That world is totally gone, and that is not Stephen King's fault. I guarantee you his marketing people do not view him as an author, but just a very, very detailed pitch man. For those of us coming up now, form should be your first decision, not the last. Your story could be whatever you want it to be. It could be a comic or a video game or an ARG, the endlessly creative ways people go about doing those. And I think this is especially true for genre fans. If you're into horror, sci-fi, thriller, or fantasy, prose as your default is close to the worst first option, because all of those things want to be films, or comics at least. Aim for the highest expression of your vision. The sooner you do that, the sooner you'll get there, instead of just saying, I should write novels and hope people will adapt them and hope they're good. Don't take baby steps gambling on the notion that you have all the time in the world. You don't.